Hello everybody, it's Molly and my wonderful fiance Tim Hahn.
Hi there.
We are co-owners of CrossFit Instinct and behind the scenes of Operation Change Springfield, and our focus in the most recent email that went out to everyone was about exercise, and today we're going to cover the basic squat. And you guys probably saw if you did sign up and register for the emails, which you can still do. It's just right above here, it says sign up if you scroll to the top of the page. But we discussed even just picking up an object off the ground. Once you know the basics of a squat, you can do that a lot more safely and try to reduce injury doing something silly like picking something up off of the ground. So I'll let Tim go from here.
All right, so we're going to talk about the squat today, just the body weight squat. And first off, everybody has a reason to move. So no matter how old or young you are, you always want to be able to move as good as possible. So everybody can do this movement, and everybody needs to do this movement, whether it's for a sport, which is what people think of typically with squatting, or if it's just life in general, getting off the toilet, getting out of the car, out of bed, off the ground, whatever it is for you, you're going to need to be able to move your body. And so we're going to talk about how to do it correctly and how to also scale it, because not everybody can just jump right into a really low squat and do all those things. So we're just going to start from the ground up. And so Molly's just going to kind of face the video here so we can kind of see. And what we're going to talk about first off is where her feet are. We want to be about shoulder width with your feet, and you can kind of play around with that, but that's a pretty kind of a good rule of thumb for squatting. Nice square stance with her feet, so we're not going to see the toes turned out a ton, or obviously in a lot too, but so she's just going to find a nice neutral position for herself, and her feet need to be firmly planted on the ground, so she's not lifting the toes, she's not curling to the outsides. We want the feet flat, the big toe down, okay? From there, we're going to kind of make sure the knees are locked out, the hips are locked out, and the belly, the trunk, and the belly and the butt are nice and organized, nice and tight, okay? What I'm going to have her do now is just going to go ahead and face that way so we can see the profile view. So the first thing we need to do is to move at the hips. So she's got her feet, she's grounded, her belly and butt's tight, nice and neutral. The first thing she's going to do is hinge at the hips, and she's only going to go down a couple inches, but we just want to see that where the butt comes back first. So she's going to do a few half reps. Starts right there and then back up, okay? Butt comes back and back up, okay? And so we're trying to make sure that we load up the backside, the posterior chain, we involve the hips, and that we make the musculature back here work as much as possible, okay? A common fault can be bending at the knees too soon and starting there, so we're going to kind of watch the knees right here. Yeah, we don't want to squat knees first. It's going to put unwanted pressure on the knees right away, and it's a little off balance. If you can see her do that again, there's a little bit off, so if I pushed her over, she didn't know I was going to do that. That's out of balance, where if she sits back, and then I try to give her a little shit. Now it's a lot sturdier foundation. So, okay, we're going to face the camera again. So we're addressing, okay, the first thing you do is we sit back at the hips, okay? Another thing that we're going to talk from the front view here is the knees. Want to make sure as she sits back, her knees are going to trace her toes, okay? So we're seeing the knees and the toes in the same line, What we don't want to have happen as she goes down is two things: the knees caving in, kind of see that, right? Or we don't want to see excessive knee out where she curls to the outsides of the feet. We don't want that either, right? We just want a good, strong squat, and so she's showing us that again with the knees and the toes in line, okay? So hips going back, knees coming out laterally, kind of pushing apart from each other, okay? And then the final thing is, and really one of the more important things is your spine, making sure we keep tension. So she's gonna face that way again. Again, we talked about creating tension here, belly and butt tight, okay? And we wanna maintain that tightness through the movement. We don't wanna see the spine move a whole lot, okay? We wanna keep it as static as possible. So Molly's gonna go ahead and just show us a few of her very best air squats. Okay, we're going to do 5. And one more, Molly. Hold the bottom. So what we're seeing here, a nice back position. Okay, the weight's back on her heels. The knees are out. Okay, and she's strong in this position. Hip crease is below the knee. Okay, and then we stand back up. And we go hip crease below the knee because that's going to take the pressure off the knees. Okay, so you can go parallel, but preferably for most people in general, going lower is going to be a little bit more applicable to life in general too. Now, if you're a power lifter or you have other reasons that you would stop at a parallel position, it's all applicable to your purpose in your sport. So for our sport, CrossFit and life, we want to make sure that we can get your butt to the floor as low as possible. Okay. Now, so is there anything else to add to that, Molly, that we haven't talked about yet? We're going to scale here in a second.
I think maybe thinking, like you said, knees in line with the toes and not necessarily so much knees out unless you need that cue, right? So just kind of, I think he was saying, just for me at least, to make sure my knees are staying out in the direction of my toes and not necessarily exaggerated out like he showed.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. And can you turn that way again?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're talking about initiating with the hips first. So we want the shins fairly vertical. So as she goes down, right, we're trying to really keep the weight back and the shins as vertical as possible. So that's hard to do, and so there's a lot of mobility and stretches that you can do, but really just doing the movement is the best way to start to get your body ready for it. So doing the movement is key, but if you can't go that low, which is, I would say, pretty common, especially at the beginning, here's some scaling options. And so we're just going to pull over a chair, and this is your everyday equipment, right? This is your weight equipment, your everyday stuff. So first off, we're going to go ahead and sit down on the chair. We're going to sit back with our hips, just like we squat, okay? She's just going to get her butt on the chair, okay? Weights on the heels, the chest is up, okay? We want to make sure that as she comes up, she remains on the heels, okay? So the weight's on the heels and the torso's nice and upright, okay? She's just going to stand up nice and tall. She's going to do a couple of those for us, okay? So sitting back and back up. And again, that profile, you can see the hips go back, and then as she stands up, the hips come back forward. Good, and let's turn and face the camera on those as well. So again, this is a great option, especially if you have knee pain and you're a little concerned with squatting right off the bat really low. This is a really great scaling option. So again, we'll watch the knees go out or in line with the toes and back up. And one more. So again, we sit, we feel the chair. Now, that's one option. We could start to go, you could actually go higher from the very beginning. You don't have to go that low. So we've got a box that's about 30 inches tall. Okay, so she's going to do the same thing. We'll see it. Okay, and this is good because, again, we're talking about, building good mechanics. So she doesn't have to go right down very low right off the bat, but she's learning now how to push the hips back, how to keep the core engaged. Good. And again, what's important, especially again, if you have knee pain or anything like that, being able to keep the shins fairly vertical and the weight back on the heels and standing up from there. Okay. Anything else to throw out there?
What about someone who's never squatted before? What would you say, the most important thing for them to think about? Besides, obviously, they're probably not going to be able to get their bottom to their ankles
right.
in a full squat. So say they're just starting out and they've got to use a higher object. What would be the number one thing for them to focus on? Is it the heels? Is it not slumping forward? What would you say? Or is it a combination?
I would think kind of the hierarchy would be, and you can kind of correct me on this if it's would be your heels, keeping your weight back. I think the tendency is to want to squat on the toes, mm-hmm. which in a lot of ways too is bending at the knees too early. So if we can just learn how to sit back and stay on the heels, that's number one. It doesn't matter how low you go, but if you can understand how to engage the posterior chain and stay back and keep your body safe, first and foremost. And then if you can do that, then start working on getting your hips lower to the ground. So first and foremost is we got to keep the weight in the heels and make sure that the knees track out. And then we can kind of, everybody's got a different opinion on what's most important next. But and then you just continue to make sure your spine is upright, and that the lower and lower you get is obviously going to increase the intensity a little bit more. So just making sure you're ready for that. And if you're just starting off, maybe doing 10 to 20 reps squats a day is how you start.
Okay.
Make it very doable. 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, maybe 10 at night. Or maybe if you've been doing squats and you're a little bit more trained at that, maybe you do 50 and you're looking in the mirror, or you videotape yourself and you're making sure that you're doing it right, and you do 50 all in a row and kind of see how that goes.
Okay. What about, for example, some of our athletes who have been doing CrossFit almost 8 years now, or we get some power lifters in here who've been powerlifting their whole life, or people who are used to being under a load or doing hundreds of squats in a workout? What's something, they've mastered the basic squat, hopefully,
Right.
But what if they've plateaued maybe on their weightlifting, or they get a little pain in the knees? What should they do?
I think with a lot of people, there's two things that come up in mind. Would be, we talked about this a little bit in our class yesterday, was making sure we brace the abs. So we'll see Molly stay in profile again. We want to make sure that when she's here, she's not overextended. So we can kind of see that overextension. Now that's exaggerated, but a lot of people do wind up being in that position, or like chicken neck, right? Back in the day, coaches used to tell us, head up, head up, head up. But what we want to make sure, and this is for anybody, is to make sure we're tight through the abs the whole time. And you can almost, there's this belly breath that you can take before you go. So you can kind of imagine holding a breath and then squatting and then back up, okay? If we're not tight in the abs, all right, or we're breathing and we're loose, we're gonna see, let's see an overextension. So in the very bottom, yeah, she goes down, and it looks like a really good arch, but as she stands up, in reality, it's loading up her low back way too much, and she can probably hurts just standing right there.
What about slouching?
Yeah, or slouching, right? So we need to make sure that we have the shoulders back, good anatomical position, and just that cue alone, just pull your shoulders back, really straightens you up. And then the other thing is the belly and the butt. Make sure the pelvis and the femur are nice in line, okay? And then the last thing that kind of came to mind was the squatting barefoot. I think myself included is we get so reliant on shoes and the lifting of our heels a little bit that our feet are really weak, and we don't have a good force production from the ground up. And that's really where the power comes from, is from the ground up. So for some of you guys that have been squatting for a while, maybe plateaued, have knee pain, hip pain, take your shoes off and really take notice of your feet and your ankles, because that's really going to tell you what's going on with your knees and your hips. And a lot of athletes have tight ankles, and so that can lead to a lot of improper form. Even if they're strong enough to do a lot of weight, what you're seeing is now a little bit of wear and tear as you get a little more seasoned. So you want to make sure that you're never too late to master the movement. So whether you're new to it or whether you're old to it, there's some really basic stuff that you want to make sure that you're always doing, no matter how many reps you're doing, how fast you're going. It shouldn't matter. It should always be the same type of squat.
So you're saying whether I'm doing a 400-pound back squat or 135-pound front squat for 30 reps or air squats, they all should be the same.
Yep. And that, it's that universal pattern is what you're looking for. So it's not a dead end. The squat shouldn't be a dead end. It should be a kind of a highway to all these other movements. So if I can squat correctly, I can now understand jumping patterns, running patterns, Olympic lifting patterns. So most importantly, it's the squat is probably one of the most universal movements that we do. We have to do it no matter what. So if we can get really good at that, that's just going to open up a whole new avenue of knowledge for our body. And you should really be able to master your body. You got your whole life to kind of figure that out. So there's tons of videos out there that you can use to kind of make sure that you're doing it right. Another form that we like is if Molly's just standing right there, if she just faced a wall while she's squatting, right? So this is kind of our last point here. This will keep the athlete from collapsing over. So we see nice and tall, the belly's tight, all the way down, and all the way up. One more. Back up. So, and that's a great way for doing it at your house. So if you don't have somebody watching you or whatever, you want to make sure that you can always face a wall, and that would keep your body a little bit more upright.
Just real quick, and we'll finish this up here. Why would specifically the older population, why is a full range of motion squat? So maybe they've gotten to the chair, but what's some examples of things where we would need to use where maybe you can't hold everything as well, but you have the flexibility to get all the way down in a squat? Why is that important for everybody?
Right. Yeah, so we were kind of talking about it's applicable for everybody, and she's asking, as you get older and you're what's the movements that you're going to be using? I think right away when she did that, it was like gardening. I hear a lot of people that are outside still doing yard work, and they want to be able to do that and have full access. So being able to bend down with good balance and work on the ground, whether it's again toilet or a chair, getting off the ground.
I think that's a good one.
If you've fallen at all and you need to get your body back up, being able to do that.
And there's that squat right there, right? The same.
Yeah, you look here, you got a super, super low squat there, but all those same universal patterns we talked about kind of go into that. So not only does it help us run, jump, and sprint faster, but again, yeah, like she just showed, getting off the ground, which is stuff we take for granted, but definitely have seen that with our grandparents and older clients that if you don't do it enough, you're definitely going to start to lose that flexibility and mobility. So, and just doing it in general keeps your hips, your knees, and your ankles all in good form and good mobility.
So in this week's email, I had a little picture of someone picking up an object, and picking things up correctly to not injure yourself is just like the squat that we taught. So I think in the photo it showed someone picking something up like this, which obviously is going to be all that back in a poor position, which just like Tim taught us the squat. If I want to pick something up in a safe manner, I can use my same squat to come down, load everything up, and then pick up from there. You'd be amazed how easy moving a couch is when you pick it up that way. And you're not going to throw your back out doing it.
And if you ever have thrown your back out or have back pain, you can't do it the wrong way. Like, you have to brace your midline. So being injured, even though it's a terrible thing, it really opens your eyes up to how your body prefers to move. And so I think we've all experienced some type of back pain and realized, I've got to keep my chest up if I'm going to grab this up. So injuries are good indicators as well, that you're obviously doing something maybe a little wrong, but you see how you move when you're injured, and that's how the body really is. It's trying to protect itself.
Wonderful.
Cool.
I think that covered more than what we planned on, so that was good.
Good deal.
Okay. Well, thanks, guys, and I hope you're looking forward to the next video. We've got some really good stuff planned in these next 2 weeks, so keep tuning in. And if you haven't signed up to get the newsletters or the emails, go ahead and do so. It's completely free. You won't get spammed with anything. This is simply just to bring changes of good health and wellness to Springfield and get people knowledgeable and healthy and fit. So thanks for tuning in. Adios.